From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2033, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. Occasionally, it works out best if one avoids the shortcut.
Sometimes the best route to take to get from Cincinnati to the International Space Station goes through Italy. On a map, this might not make geographic sense, but to everyone who was involved, it made radio sense. The telebridge in Italy with IK-1SLD was just what was needed for a group of science technology students in Cincinnati in the iSpace program who spoke with astronaut Kate Rubins, KG5FYJ, on Saturday, October 8th. The 10-minute contact was facilitated by members of the Westchester Amateur Radio Association at the National VOA Museum of Broadcasting. That would be Jocelyn Brault, KD8VRX, son Christopher Brault, KD8YVJ, and Joe Gruber, WD8AZQ, museum board member, who provided their technical expertise to make it happen. According to the VOA Museum of Broadcasting, the contact marks the first connection Cincinnati area students have had with the ISS in more than a decade. It was also the 50th telebridge contact for IK-1SLD. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Stephen Kinford, NAWB in Wadsworth, Ohio.
Most people celebrate birthdays with cake and candles. When a nation celebrates a big birthday, candles just won't do.
When it turns 150 years old next year, Canada will become even more of an OM. That is, if a nation itself can be considered an OM. Amateurs, however, celebrate just this kind of special longevity, and in that spirit, there'll be an amateur radio activation of the East Point Lighthouse on Prince Edward Island, which was recently named Canada's Confederation Lighthouse. The Lighthouse's site manager, Nova McIsaac, told the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation that the lighthouse is the only one in the country that was built the same year as Confederation, which would be 1867, that's still functioning as a lighthouse. That designation makes it eligible for funding to upgrade its exterior and make other improvements. Meanwhile, Prince Edward Island amateur George Dewar VY2GF is now hard at work planning an activation befitting this milestone birthday. Since that's next year, the event's going to come up fast, like a flash of light, even. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm John Williams, VK4JJW.
And now, another chapter in the continuing story of a ham and his bicycle.
Danish cyclist Thomas Anderson, OZ1AA/K9DXX, thinks the world of his most recent adventure as a radio amateur, since his adventure embraced the world itself, or at least 36,000 miles of it, over 58 countries. He's back home now, but not before completing a bicycling adventure which began 6 years ago, much of it with an HT in his hand. Thomas wrote on his online diary, cyclingtheglobe.com, quote, "I have cycled through Eastern Europe, learning all about the local beer. I have been chased by dogs in Turkey. I have pedalled through Syria before the war. I have been a celebrity in Malaysia and worked on a huge cattle station in Australia." End quote. He celebrated his arrival back home in Copenhagen by operating special event station OZ1BIKE, a way of saying hello again to his hometown after a long, mostly interrupted absence as he cycled through the United States, Canada, South America, parts of Africa and Europe. Now it's time for the 33-year-old engineer to hop off his cycle for a bit and simply gear down. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
For the rest of this week's Amateur Radio News, please listen to the full Amateur Radio Newsline report online, on a repeater near you, or on shortwave radio station WTWW at 9930 and 5085 kilohertz. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at www.arnewsline.org. With Stephen Kinford, N8WB, John Williams, VK4JJW, Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Welbanks, AE5DW 73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.